Chosen one. Stop everything right now. Do not scroll past this. Do not let the noise of your day pull you away from what you are hearing in this moment. Something shifted the second this video found you. And that was not an accident. Out of every piece of content in the world that could have appeared before you today, this one did. I need you to understand that heaven does not do coincidences. Heaven does coordinates. There is an emergency that has been declared over your life. Not by any human authority, not by circumstance, not by failure, but by the hand of the living God. A sacred lockdown has been placed over the season you are walking through right now. And if you have ever felt like everything in your life slowed down without explanation, if doors that seemed open have quietly closed, if people who once spoke freely to you have gone silent, if plans that felt solid have dissolved without warning, then I need you to hear this with every part of your spirit. You are not falling behind. You are being held still by the very hand that spoke the universe into existence. This message was prepared for you, not for a general audience, not for someone who happened to stumble onto this channel. For you specifically, in the exact season you are navigating right now. So before we go any further, I want you to do one thing. If you can feel in your spirit that what you are hearing is for you, if something in you recognized a truth the moment I began speaking, type the number 11 in the comments below. Let that be your declaration that you are present, that you are open, and that you are ready to receive what God is releasing in this moment. Before we go deeper, I want to take a brief moment to speak to those of you who have been consistently returning to this channel, who have found something real here, something that reached you in the quiet hours when nothing else could. If this ministry has ever met you in a moment of genuine need, consider supporting this work by buying a coffee through the Ko-Fi link in the description below and in the pinned comment. This channel is not a corporation. It is one act of obedience carried forward by people who believe the message of hope matters enough to protect and continue. In Luke chapter 8 verse 3, it is written that there were those who supported Jesus and his disciples out of their own means, not because they were asked to give what they did not have, but because they recognized the value of the work and chose to be part of it. When you give even the smallest gift through that link, you are not simply supporting content. You are helping carry this word to someone sitting in total darkness right now. Someone with no church, no community, no one to tell them that God sees them. That gift matters eternally. Check the description and the pinned comment for the link. Now let us go into the deep. I am going to ask you to do something that goes against every instinct you have been trained to follow. I am going to ask you to stop trying to fix this. Not because your situation is hopeless, not because effort is meaningless, but because the stillness you are experiencing right now is not the enemy of your progress. It is the architecture of it. And the moment you understand the difference between divine delay and divine design, everything changes. Let me ask you something honest. When did you last feel like things were moving the way you expected them to? When did you last feel like the doors opening matched the timeline you had laid out in your mind? For most of you who are here today, that feeling has been distant for a while. And in that distance, something has been whispering, quietly, insistently, in the spaces between sleep and waking, that you are somehow behind, that others are moving and you are standing still, that the window is closing, that you missed something you cannot get back. I am here to tell you that whisper is not the truth. It is a test of whether you trust what you cannot yet see. In the story of Lazarus, recorded in the Gospel of John chapter 11, there is a moment that confused everyone around it. When word reached Jesus that his dear friend Lazarus was sick, the scripture records something that should stop you in your tracks. It says that when Jesus heard the news, he stayed where he was for 2 more days. He did not rush. He did not immediately mobilize. He remained still, and in that stillness, by every human measure, things got worse. Lazarus died. The sisters wept. Hope began to collapse under the weight of reality. And then Jesus arrived. And what looked like the worst possible outcome became the stage for the greatest possible miracle. The delay was not negligence. The pause was not absence. The stillness was the very condition required for what was about to happen at the level it did. A healing would have been remarkable. A resurrection was unforgettable. Heaven held the timeline still, so that what emerged from it could not be explained by anything smaller than God. Your life is being held in a similar way right now, not because healing is off the table, but because what is being prepared for you requires a different kind of arrival, and it cannot arrive on the schedule you were pushing toward. It can only arrive on the schedule that has been set by the one who sees the beginning and the end of your story simultaneously. Type the word "protected" in the comments if you are beginning to feel what I am saying. Let your agreement be the anchor that holds you steady as we go forward. Think of the tallest tree you have ever seen. Now think about what is happening underneath it, beneath the surface of the ground. Invisible, Yoon announced. Decades of roots have moved through the soil, around rock, through water, expanding and deepening in ways that no one watching from above could ever observe. The growth that made that tree magnificent was not what happened in the seasons when the leaves came out bright and full and visible. The growth that made it able to stand through storms was what happened underground. In the quiet, in the dark, in the places no one was watching. You are in a root-growing season. The work being done in you right now is not visible on the surface. It is not showing up as external results yet. People around you may not understand why you seem to be holding still when everyone else seems to be moving. And that misunderstanding is part of the process. Because what is being built in you is not for them to evaluate. It is not subject to their commentary. The roots go where the roots need to go. God is not just preparing a path for you. He is preparing you for the path. And those two things require very different kinds of work. A prepared path requires open doors and cleared obstacles. A prepared person requires the removal of everything within you that would sabotage the good thing once it arrives. So let me ask you something that might feel uncomfortable. Is it possible that part of what this pause is doing is removing a version of you that was not ready? Not because that version of you was bad, but because it was not yet equipped. Not because you failed, but because the destination you are heading toward requires a you that does not yet fully exist. And that version of you is being formed right now. In the quiet, in the roots. Like this video right now, if you believe that God is using this season to prepare you for something your current self could not yet handle, let that be an act of faith. There were things approaching your life that looked like blessings. They had the shape of opportunity. They wore the appearance of alignment. They presented themselves at what felt like the right time, through people you trusted or situations that seemed perfectly orchestrated. And from where you were standing, they looked like the answer you had been waiting for. But heaven saw what you could not see. Behind the attractive surface of some of those things, there was cost. Not always immediate cost, but the slow, quiet kind that accumulates over time. The kind that drains your peace so gradually you do not notice until the account is empty. The kind that pulls you away from your actual purpose while giving you the feeling of forward movement. And so the lockdown came. I want to speak directly to someone listening who has spent a long time grieving a loss that felt devastating. A relationship that ended, an opportunity that dissolved, a chapter that closed so abruptly. it left you breathless. I want to tell you this specifically. What left your life was not always taken. Some of it was sent. Some of it was returned to sender by the same God who said, "I know the plans I have for you, plans for a future and a hope, not for harm." You could not have released it yourself. You were too close to it. You were too invested. You would have held on even as it held you back. So the release was arranged for you, because your life matters too much for you to be handed the wrong thing at the wrong time, just because it looked right on the surface. Type the number 777 in the comments right now if you believe that God has protected you from something you cannot fully see yet. Let that number be a declaration of trust. I want to give you a different language for what silence actually is. Most people experience silence as absence. When someone stops calling, the silence sounds like rejection. When prayers seem unanswered, the silence sounds like indifference. But silence, in the language of heaven, is not the same as absence. Silence is often the sound of deep work. Think about what happens before a storm breaks. There is a particular quality of air, heavy, still, charged. Birds go quiet. The wind drops. The world seems to hold its breath, and then something enormous moves through. The silence before the storm is not the absence of weather. It is weather at its most concentrated. Something is building. Something is gathering. Something is organizing itself in the invisible before it shows up in the visible. Your silence is that kind of silence. God is not away from you in this quiet. He is closest to you in it. The builder is not absent from the building while the foundation is being laid. The builder is most present precisely during the part of the work that looks the least dramatic from the outside. And what is being built in you has foundations that need to be set correctly. Your character is being reinforced. Your discernment is being sharpened. Your capacity to carry what you are about to receive is being expanded. Do not rush this. Do not bargain your way out of the depth. The depth is the gift. I want to pause here for a moment and speak to those of you who have found something genuine in this space. If this message has spoken to something real in your spirit today, if you felt the weight of these words in a way that moved past the surface and reached somewhere deeper, consider supporting this channel by buying a coffee through the Ko-Fi link in the description below or in the pinned comment. This work exists because people who believe in the value of this message choose to carry it forward. Your support helps ensure that this voice reaches people searching in silence, people with no church community, people in the middle of a crisis at 2 in the morning who need to hear that God has not forgotten them. In the Gospel of Matthew chapter 10 verse 42, Jesus says that even a cup of cold water given in His name will not lose its reward. What you give in support of work done in His name carries that same sacred weight. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment. And whether or not you are able to give today, know that your presence here, your openness, your willingness to receive, that in itself is something we do not take lightly. Now let us continue. There is a process that gardeners understand deeply, that most of the rest of us find uncomfortable when it is applied to our own lives. It is called pruning. You take something that is growing, something alive and genuinely healthy, and you cut it back. Not because it is diseased, not because it is failing, but precisely because you want it to grow in a direction that its current spread would prevent. You remove branches that are consuming energy without producing fruit. The tree after pruning looks diminished. It looks smaller, but the gardener knows exactly what has been done and why. And the gardener is not worried. This is what is happening in your stripping season. The things removed from your life in this lockdown period, some of them were genuinely good things. Some of the friendships that went quiet were real friendships. Some of the opportunities that closed were real opportunities. The grief of losing good things is real. I am not dismissing that. But the pruning does not stop at what is obviously wrong. The pruning reaches into what is good but not yet best, what is fine but not what was meant for you. And when the good but not best is removed, the resources that were going to sustain it are now free to flow toward what is actually your assignment. The empty spaces are not empty. They are available. And available. In the economy of heaven is one of the most powerful positions you can occupy. Type the word open in the comments if you are willing to trust God with what has been removed. Let that word be the beginning of a new kind of surrender. The enemy has a strategy for seasons of stillness, and it is not complicated, but it is consistent, and it is effective when it is not recognized for what it is. The strategy is comparison. When you are still and others around you seem to be moving, the enemy will use that contrast as a weapon. He will show you the highlight reel of everyone else's progress and ask you why your life does not look like that. He will take the genuine good things happening in other people's lives and use them as evidence that something is wrong with yours. And the cruelest part of this strategy is that it uses real things to build a false case. The people moving forward are real people. Their progress is real. Their blessings are genuine. The enemy is not fabricating the evidence. He is just radically misinterpreting what it means for your life. Because their season is not your season. Their timeline is not your timeline. Their assignment is not your assignment. Measuring the distance between where you are and where they are makes exactly as much sense as measuring the distance between a seed in the ground and a tree that has been growing for 10 years and concluding that something is wrong with the seed. The seed is not behind the tree. The seed is becoming a different tree, on a different schedule, rooted in different soil, built for a different height. You are not behind anyone. You are exactly where your own story requires you to be. Subscribe to this channel right now if you want to be part of a community navigating these seasons together. People who are choosing to trust the process, even when the process is uncomfortable. People committed to becoming who God designed them to be, rather than performing a version of life designed for approval. Hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you are alerted when the next message is released. Because what is coming in this series is going to build directly on what you are receiving today. God is speaking to you in this season. The stillness is not the absence of His voice. The stillness is where His voice is most clearly audible, because the other voices have been quieted enough that you can finally hear the one that was always there. But His language in a lockdown season is different from what most of us were taught to expect. It is not primarily the language of dramatic signs and sudden shifts. In seasons of sacred stillness, God speaks in the language of inner knowing, of quiet conviction, of a peace that settles over a thought in a way that has nothing to do with the circumstances around it, of a clarity that arrives not through the noise, but through the absence of it. He speaks in the language of rest. When your mind finally gets quiet enough, something comes through. Not a vision, not a thunderclap, but a knowing. A sense of I understand now. A sense of this is what was always meant. He speaks in the language of alignment. When something you have been pressing toward suddenly feels less urgent, because the urgency was attached to your timeline and not to His plan. He speaks in the language of new desire, in what rises in you during this season, in what you begin to hunger for, in what begins to feel important in a way that is solid and not frantic. Are you staying with me? Type the word yes in the comments. If something in this message is meeting you in a real place today, I want to be very practical now. Because spiritual truth without practical application becomes beautiful language that changes nothing. So let me give you 3 specific things to do while you are in this lockdown season. The first is this: become a student of your own interior. Most of us spend enormous energy managing what is happening outside us. During a lockdown season, when external activity is limited, that energy has nowhere external to go, which is exactly the point. Use it to go inward. Notice what rises in you and what sinks. Notice what energizes you and what drains you. This is not navel-gazing. This is the essential self-knowledge that will inform every decision you make when the lockdown lifts. The second is this: become disciplined about what you take in. The voices you allow into this stillness matter enormously. Not all content, not even all spiritual content, will serve the particular work God is doing in you right now. Be intentional. Feed your spirit things that increase your clarity rather than your anxiety. Spend time in Scripture. Spend time in prayer that is less about asking and more about listening. The third is this: practice pre-gratitude. This is the active choice to be grateful now for what God has promised is coming, to relate to the future as though it is already certain. Because in the economy of heaven, what God has spoken is more real than what has not yet materialized. Begin to thank Him now for the alignment that is coming, for the clarity being built, for the relationships being sent, for the opportunities that were held back from the wrong timing and are being prepared for the right one. The prophet Isaiah, in chapter 40, verse 31, says this: "Those who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint." I want you to receive every word of that promise in this moment. The renewal of your strength, not the maintenance of it, not the conservation of it, but the renewal, meaning that what was depleted is being replenished. What was worn down is being restored. What was exhausted is being given new capacity, the mounting up with wings. The picture here is of an eagle catching a thermal, a rising column of warm air, and without effort, without straining, without fighting against anything, simply opening its wings and letting the current lift it higher than it could go through its own power. That is a picture of what becomes possible when you stop straining against the season you are in and let the grace of God carry you. Not passive, not checked out, but surrendered to the lift that is already available if you will stop fighting it. Type the number 3333 in the comments as a declaration of faith. Let it be your agreement that you are standing on these promises, not because you see the evidence yet, but because you trust the one who made them. On the other side of this lockdown, there is a version of your life characterized by something you may have only experienced in brief glimpses until now: alignment. True alignment. The kind that comes when who you are, what you do, where you are, and who you are with are all moving in the same direction, powered by the same purpose, rooted in the same foundation. Most people spend their lives constantly correcting and compensating, giving energy to relationships that are not quite right, investing in work that is not quite the thing, living in circumstances that are not quite the fit. There is nothing wrong with faithfulness in misalignment, but it is exhausting in a very specific way. Not the exhaustion of hard work, but the exhaustion of being slightly off course and having to paddle constantly just to stay on track. What is coming is a reduction in that particular exhaustion. Not because life becomes easy, not because challenges disappear, but because when you are genuinely aligned, the effort you exert goes somewhere rather than just keeping you from going backwards. It produces something, it builds something, it moves something. That is what is waiting for you on the other side of this stillness. And it is being prepared with a care and a precision that you will only be able to fully appreciate once you are standing in it. I want to close this time with you by speaking directly to something I know is sitting in the room, whether or not you have named it out loud. It is the fear that this time has been wasted, that all the days of waiting, all the seasons of holding still, all the months of keeping faith while nothing seemed to be moving, that somehow all of that will have been spent without return. I want to speak to that fear very directly. In the economy of God, no faithfully endured season is ever wasted. Not one, not a day of it. In Romans chapter 8, verse 28, the promise is not that all things feel good or look good or seem good. The promise is that all things work together for good, for those who love God and are called according to His purpose. Work together, not separately, not individually, but together. Which means that the season you are in right now is not a detour from the plan. It is a component of it. It is being woven into something larger, and the weaving requires this thread to be exactly where it is. You will look back on this season. I want you to know that. There will come a day, and it may be closer than you think, when you will look back on exactly where you are standing right now, and you will understand, with a clarity that is both beautiful and humbling, why this was necessary, why the pause was mercy, why the delay was protection, why the silence was preparation, why the stripping was making room. And in that understanding, there will not be regret. There will be gratitude, the deep, settled kind that only comes when you can see the full picture and recognize that the hand that guided it knew exactly what it was doing the entire time. That day is coming for you. You are not forgotten. Heaven's attention is on you right now, in this moment, in this season, with a specificity and a tenderness that goes beyond what any human relationship can provide. You are known, you are seen, you are held, and what is being built in you right now, in the quiet, in the roots, in the foundation that no one else can see, is going to carry you into the fullness of what you were made for. Stay faithful. Stay present. Stay rooted in the truth of who God is and what He has spoken over your life. And when this lockdown lifts, and it will lift, you will not walk out the same. You will walk out ready. You will walk out whole. You will walk out with a clarity and a conviction and a peace that nothing in this world will be able to shake. Before I release you, let me speak a final blessing over you. May the peace that surpasses understanding guard your heart and your mind in the days ahead. May the clarity that God is building in you arrive in its fullness at exactly the right moment. May every door that opens from this point forward be a door that was made for you. And may every step you take carry the quiet confidence of someone who knows they are guided. If this message spoke to something real in you today, I want to hear from you. Leave a comment below. Tell me what landed for you. Tell me where you are in your journey. This community is not a passive audience. It is a gathering of people walking the same kind of road who need to know they are not walking it alone. Your voice matters here. Type the number 9999 in the comments as a final declaration. That you receive everything God released in this message. That you trust the season you are in. And that you commit to staying faithful through the stillness until the lockdown lifts and the fullness of what was prepared steps forward to meet you. If you are not yet subscribed, please do that right now. Hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. This message is part of a continuing series, and what is coming next will build on exactly what you received today. You do not want to miss it. And if you have made it all the way to the end of this message, I want to honor that. Because it takes something real to sit in a message like this and let it actually touch you. It is easier to scroll. It is easier to move on. But you stayed. And that staying is a reflection of the very faithfulness that is carrying you through your season. Go in peace and know that you are held.